Folks, hello and welcome to Talking Crit. We apologize for being late because we were talking crit before the show. So, I mean, hey, it happens. To not, I guess, stage right, left. I can never figure this shit out. My once a week work spouse, Mike Battalato.
Yes.
And below us, because he needs his own space. He is none other than Ken Spencer. Ken,
hello, everyone.
Joining us.
Yes.
Yeah, we're actually, sometimes we dip low for our guests. This time we dip pretty high.
No, I can't believe we hadn't had Ken on before. That's weird. It's one of those things where I started looking around and going, I don't think we've had Ken on ever. And
well,
this dude is
like
weapons
on the wall hanging behind him. It could be dangerous, If
Any winning. Oh yeah, he's just trying to throw that.
That's my grandfather's bayonet from World War II.
Oh, very nice. Damn.
I thought you meant his any winning poster there so you could rub it in that we'll never
win. Well, yeah, that's my claim to fame.
There you go. So, but yeah, Ken is along with myself, works at Fraud Guy Games. He does much more work than I do, though. He's a very, very prolific writer for us. You might know him for, there's just so much stuff. Where do I start? I got a pile over here, Ken. Well,
Northland Saga is probably my favorite project I've worked on.
Northland's great. If you like a book that's that thick, that's about Vikings and Northland stuff, and it's just awesome. That's a really good setting. It's part of the Lost Lands, but really you can run just pretty much any northern type campaign. It's good stuff. But yeah, he's written quite a few of our Indiegogo's items. Right now he's got a Kickstarter up. We got a Kickstarter up right now, and he's going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to ask him a bunch of questions because Ken is one of the few people in the gaming industry that has this bullet point. So most people in the gaming industry do something else for a living, or they've done something else for a living. It's usually, whatever. I mean, Eric. Right. Now Eric's a cop. Which is kind of cool because there's not a lot of ex-cops in this industry either. My background is not even worth talking about. But Ken's an archaeologist, which is kick-ass. So he's lived Call of Cthulhu. I mean, he's done
Indiana Jones. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he has investigated ruins. Got chased off by Lovecraftian creatures. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure it's exciting as hell. He's going to tell us about
shot at by backwoods hillbillies.
There you go. Yeah.
I had that happen when I was a kid, but that's only because I was peeking.
You were shot at by the hose of Hunts Point.
No. We just rounded them up.
You're famous.
I got shot at in the Pocono.
Did you win an Emmy for that? I don't know if you won an Emmy for that or not. The hose of Hunts Point. You didn't win.
I was not in the hose from Hunts Point.
Oh, I thought they interviewed you.
No. I just knew a few of the hose that were filmed for that.
Oh, so you were famous by association.
Years after the filming of that, which reminds me, I have to look it up on HBO. I'm sure it's available.
Oh yeah, that's always got to. It probably wasn't filmed with any high quality, film. So it might not be around anymore. It may not exist.
I'm sure it does.
So Ken, talk to us about your the Kickstarter that's up right now, and I think we're.
Okay. Right now, we're running Tome of Wondrous items for 5e. It's a catalog of hundreds of magic items for 5e. We've got your usual items. I like to say that we've got your rings, we've got your scrolls, we've got your armors, we've got your weapons, we've got your wands, staves, rods, potions, all of the usual stuff you would expect, as well as a trove of new types of magical items, otherworldly items that aren't necessarily from a fantasy world but have ended up there. Certainly inspired by Expedition of the Barrier Peaks, as well as from Lovecraftian literature, and magical tattoos.
Ooh!
What's great about this is one of my most used items is the Encyclopedia Magica that TSR put out in the 90s, which I understand lost the money. Absolutely, they lost their ass on it, but it's such a great product, and it basically lists every magic item ever published in any TSR related item for 25 years or whatever. And that is one of the greatest books just to pull out and you're like, I just need some magical arrows, or I just want to look at just some random magic items. And that's what's so cool about this. This is kind of the same purpose, And even though it's for 5e, I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, does it, kid? I mean, you could use it for pretty much any system. All you need is the idea that, okay, I want a ring of fill in the blank, and you can make that fit any system.
Exactly. They're magical items. So if you were to look at, say, the brick of building, there's 5e rules for it and magic item stats. But what it is, it's an enchanted brick. You throw it on the ground, and if you have the wall brick of building, it builds a brick wall. If you have the well brick of building, it digs a well. Oh. And that's really as system neutral as you can get.
I like that.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that you can use with any edition of the game. I love books like that. I like books about spells. That's why magic item books, spell books, and monster books are probably the best-selling books in our industry, Ken, because you could just take those and you just, anybody can use them, and they have great playthrough ability, I guess you'd call it, where you can just use it with anything. So.
And that's one of the goals I meant when designing this book. When I first started looking at it and mapping out how it's going to be arranged and how it's going to be formatted, how I'm going to present it, and what items we're going to have, is that the majority of the items are designed to be useful in some way, not necessarily, this item gives you a +1 to this, or this item gives you advantage on this type of roll, or this item gives you this little ability to cast this spell. There's a few of those in there because those are needed, but the majority of the items are useful things. They do wondrous, amazing little things that the player can decide, okay, so like the brick of building, for a well, the intent is you throw this down, you get a well. That's useful, especially if you're doing a desert adventure. But what if you're above the caverns of impending horrid doom and you really want to get down there? Maybe your brick of well will go deep enough.
That causes the DM to think, and he has to think, "Oh shoot, they're gonna cut through my adventure, right?"
Well, yeah,
they're gonna screw me up.
I want them to think about, how am I going to use this item in a way that's maybe not designed, but is indeed intended.
And this is cool too, because one of the things I try to do in my campaigns is that I don't like generic magic items, like your generic. All my swords have special powers, or they speak a language, they do something fun, and the same thing with pretty much most of my items. I like those magic items that are very unique and that tell a story, because I just can't see a magic user sitting there when they're creating magic items just thinking, I'm just going to make another +2 sword. You've already made 100, dude. I mean, let's spice it up a little bit. So I love items like that. The brick of building sounds, already that just sounds like something that I've got to have on my campaign, something like that.
Unique magic items are the ones that people don't give up, right? I mean, when you get, I have a +1 sword, but now I get a +2 sword. So you swap out the +2 into the +1. You give the +1 to your henchman. Now, if your +1 has some special abilities, now it's like, I don't know, I got to balance it out. It does such great minor things that assist you. So even like the bricks of building, I love that because I know my players will fuck me over with that very easily.
Well, and then other things that are included, came up with a new concept for magic items of panoplies. So they're sets. Individually, there are some of your more powerful magic items, but when you start combining pieces from the same set together, for example, there's 4 sets of the panoplies of the elemental warriors. There's an air one, a fire one, an earth one, a water one. They each have their own unique abilities, but if you are collecting a set as a character, getting the bow of the air warrior is great. But if you're wearing the sash of the air warrior and you're wielding the bow, they're both more powerful.
Oh, okay.
So the idea is to encourage the players to start seeking out and taking some of the load of what's the next part of the adventure. Well, the next part of the adventure is we're going to go find out where I've got the sash, I got the bow. Where's the helm? Who's got it? What happened to it? Can I find some sort of lore and a crumbling ruin that gives me a clue that leads me to another continent, that takes me to a sage on a hill who then says, you need to go here and do that?
I like
My
it.
apologies, a teenager just passed behind us.
I was about to say.
My office
we
is
should-
in the middle of the house, so to get to the bathroom,
Oh, well, that's a priority.
Rookie
he
mistake.
should be doing
Ken,
the
come on.
dishes, so he has to find other things to do.
This is cool. And here's what's something cool about this is it's already funded. It's funded. So if you want to drop your $40, you get a copy of this, and it's funded. So and it's Frogga Games. So we never don't send stuff out. It's always on time. Always tried to. Well, it's close on time, but yeah,
it's usually on time. It's always high quality.
But we have 2 weeks to go, but it's already funded. That's the best part. Is you are definitely going to get this item,
and we're into the stretch goals.
Yes, which is
that's
the fun part.
We're doing 2 types of stretch goals. One is treasure tales, where I take a look at one item from the book, or sometimes a collection of items that work together, and go, okay, so here's the inspiration, here's an adventure hook, here's some story background. If your character starts seeking this out, here's a little bit of history of what the item could be. And then an alternate item, an addition to the collection. For example, with the brain jar, I think that was our first one unlocked. The brain jar is just that. It's a jar you put a brain in. Now, it has attachment points on it. So the stretch goal Treasure Tales brain jar has new attachment units you can put on that brain jar. Otherwise, the brain's stuck in there with no sensation or ability to communicate and slowly goes insane.
Damn!
Very Lovecraftian. I also like some of the other add-ons. So we've already got the 4 add-ons. We've got the two of the treasure tales. That's basically you having to write 2 adventures here, so to speak. We've got these other things which are called trinkets. I didn't know what these were. I didn't even know we were doing that. I heard Zach talk about this, so I didn't know what he was talking about. And once I read it, I was like, that's what he was talking about. The trinkets is cool. So trinkets are a 100-item table that you roll on that just has these little random kick-ass items you find, which I love. I've got a whole spreadsheet, but a Word file where I've taken various random tables from the years from different sources that I just like to roll from when the players go to a treasure hoard and just roll these really cool little random items.
Oh yeah, and therefore, however you want to use them, and they're not necessarily tied to a specific system. They're based around, we wanted to hit, because it's a 5e product, we hit Dragonborn and Tieflings early on. But we're doing elves, dwarves, all sorts of these trinket tables. So you can use it as I pickpocket from this dwarf, and then you roll and go, well, he's got one of these. In 5e, trinkets are used in character creation. You have this one little thing that you could build your character's backstory on, and you roll that up on the trinket table. But there's a generic one in the player's handbook. This is focused to class and to race.
Ooh,
nice, good deal. So yeah, and even if you don't have Tieflings or Dragonborn in your campaign, I don't care. I'd like to throw that stuff out anyway. And I use them all. I like to. I'm a DM. I think on the run. I like to roll random. One of the coolest items that we ever got in a party was I rolled on a random item chart, and it said everlasting peanut. An everlasting peanut is a peanut you can crack open and eat. You can keep cracking open and eating it. And that sounds like the goofiest item, but we had so much fun with that item for like years in one of my original campaigns. And it was just a one-off, just rolled randomly item. We had so much fun with that. So just stuff like, I love things like that. I love, because this is utilitarian for any kind of campaign you run for any kind of game. OSR, 5e, whatever you want to do. This stuff can come in, especially if you're a good DM and you know how to take on your feet.
Oh, and there's also a few things in here that we put in just for fun. All of it is fun and exciting, but there's a few things because I couldn't resist myself. During my research, I delved into material culture throughout time and space. So archaeology, current things that are being used that are not, modern high-tech sorts of things. Although one of the otherworldly items, and don't tell your players this, it's a cell phone.
That's evil. That's evil to inflict that on.
It's
How
a
dare
it's a
you do
ceramic
that?
it's a ceramic box with a glass face, and if they press the right buttons, it lights up, and there's pictures there, and they can tap the pictures, and the pictures flash and move and do different things. So it's described from a medieval Renaissance fantasy perspective, but it's a self.
I would do that, and then I would have it buzz. If they push the button, it's somebody talking about their something called a car warranty.
Oh,
And they'd be like, "What? Like, yes, have you checked your car warranty lately?" Like, I have no clue.
That has become such a meme. My 13-year-old, we're sitting there playing Pendragon last Sunday, and they're rolling their winter phase, and one of their horses dies, and he looks at the other player and says, "I'd like to talk to you about your horse's warranty."
Nice.
I thought, you don't even get calls or have a car. Where do you hear this stuff? But one of the things I found out on doing the research is there's a type of robe worn in the Middle East called an abba. So we have the abba of the Dancing Queen.
No.
Yes. As well as things like the abba of the Desert Prince. That's a part of the Desert Prince's panoply. But there's some few things in there. The Hand of Holding.
Okay.
you're gonna hurt me with
I like
puns.
it.
You do realize that.
Excuse me?
You're gonna hurt me with your puns.
That's the part of it, yeah.
Ouchie.
So this is a companion volume to the Tome of Alchemy. I mean, just because it's a tome of, or is there some kind of
they're standalone products. You don't need one to use the other. But the Tome of Alchemy introduces these substances, alchemical and magical substances. So we use those for some of the items in Tome of Wondrous items. We have too many tome books at Frog God.
Well, we do, yeah. Somebody in Frog God needs to think of something besides tomb or book of.
Exactly, yeah. But
for a while it was quest.
Some of the things we use is the idea of conjunction. So certain items can be in conjunction or discord with each other because of their nature. So something that's strongly elemental themed, if you are wearing the sash of the Fire Warrior, it has a strong conjunction with fire. You don't want to put on a ring that has a strong conjunction with water. The two magic items won't work well at the same time. They'll damage each other, and possibly the wearer and the surrounding landscape.
Nice.
Not all items are like that, but some that are strongly themed are.
Well, that's pretty cool. It's a built-in balance. I like that. It makes your players think, which can be dangerous, but still.
So that's the book in a nutshell. Peanut nutshell apparently tonight.
Ouch.
And we rounded out with magical tattoos.
I think that's a cool idea too. That's an idea that I'm surprised has never really been used very much. But when you think about it, it really makes sense, especially for certain cultures to have stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And the way that we put it out is that it's a permanent magic item for the most part. But the two main restrictions, the way to kind of constrain it so you don't end up with someone coming out with, sleeves of magical tattoos and can do everything, is that they're difficult to get. They don't just take time, and they don't just take finding a person who can do it. They also take a certain amount of spiritual pain and effort from the person receiving the tattoo to incorporate the magic into their spirit.
Yeah, you just can't have a bohonk down at the local tattoo parlor and slap one of those on. You've got
exactly. The other limit is that each one of the tattoos that we describe goes on a specific part of the body, and you can't have two magical tattoos on the same body part.
Makes sense. Yeah,
Okay.
You got to have your limits there, just like not more than one ring.
Exactly. You can have an arm tattoo.
But I want to wear a ring on my toe, says the D&D player. He's the first guy that ever thought of that. Nobody ever thought about that, dude. Yeah, you're the first guy ever thought about that.
Well, where else could you wear it? Come on, man. There's a couple of places.
I'm going to put it in my ear as an earring. I had a player do that once.
Oh, I know.
I'm going to do it as an earring.
Yeah. I'll pierce my private parts. No.
I want a nose. Oh, yeah. Private parts and my nose.
I remember that one.
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, I don't. No, let's not go into that one. And here's the thing too.
I got my wife. We were dating, and she gave it to me one year, our first Valentine's Day. She's like, "This looked like a cool D&D book. I know you like that stuff." I was like, "Are you trying to tell me something?" She's like, "No, I thought the cover looked nice." Like,
Trying to help. She's just trying to help.
Yeah, just generally being.
Oh.
But in any case, the tattoos are a good idea because, listen, when I was first gaming, everybody wanted the hand or eye of Vecna, and that meant popping out your eye or cutting off your hand,
or chopping your hand off. Yes.
So I mean, this is a much better option. I can, tattoos may be fairly permanent, but it's not as permanent as chopping your arm off and grafting a foreign, artifact onto it. So
But it's like that thing where they get the tattoo halfway done, the word spelled wrong on there. It's supposed to be like fireball. It's like furball. Like, oh no, you got to start over, man.
It's all the halflings walking around with tattoos and Elven, and they have no idea what they say.
Yeah, this means I'm a strong, virile halfling, and it really means small runt who smells bad. And Elvish. Yeah. Oh yeah, they read that for you. Oh no, that doesn't mean what you think it means, Mr. Halfling. No, lots of good role playing things here. This is great. I'm looking forward to this one because I love stuff like this. I love books like this. I have a whole shelf at home where I have the TSR Encyclopedia Magica. I have the book of pre-spell or the 4-book or 3-book pre-spells, the 4-book mage spells. Mm-hmm. I got a few other just kind of cool books where it's just a tome of adventure design, stuff like that. That just has lots of fun lists to roll on, and then just hey, I'm just going to throw a random magic out of my campaign. Roll. Okay, brain jar. What does a brain jar do? Oh, okay. How? That's cool. Yes, I want to do this. Definitely.
Fun times.
So, Ken, tell us about your. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Eric.
No, I'm saying I still have to back because it says.
I haven't either. I'm really lazy on backing Frog God stuff because I always think that I'll come across it someday. And sometimes I don't. So I get screwed on things like, oh wait, I bet I'll come across it at some point, and then I don't come across it.
I've been in the industry long enough and worked broadly enough that I've come to over rely on the stopping by somebody's booth during a convention and be like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah,
I've been looking forward to picking up this book.
Yep, Gamehole Con, I loaded up on some stuff too. Yes, same thing. I'm getting a little too privileged though, because I mean every once in a while you get somebody that's like, oh, you're Mike from Talking Creative. Well, here's a free fill in the blank. I'm like, oh, this is a pretty good gig, But yeah, it doesn't happen often enough. So
no,
not at all.
I'll work hard.
I got a free torchlight. That was I guess that's good. That's a fun. Speaking of which, I still got to send you these torchlights. I got a pile of torchlights for you here, Eric. I gotta send these to you. Forgot all about that.
It's okay.
Don't let me forget. How many you need? 10,
I
15?
10 sounds good.
Okay. I got a stack. Yeah, there it is. I got a stack right there. I'll mail you those. Sorry about that. No, so we talked about that. I was gonna segue over to which I thought was when I worked at Gamehole with Ken, he was talking about his career in archaeology, and I guess I just never knew that about Ken. And so I guess we just have to start talking archaeology here because I know you'd done the Northland Saga. Was this related to your love of archaeology? Because for those who don't know, the Northland Saga is a great. It's seriously, it's like this thick. It's a gigantic book.
It's huge.
If you can find it, it's out of print, but we still have copies at TSR. I'm sorry.
Oh my God!
I have TSR in the mind tonight, man, because I just that's been a source of hilarity all day.
And it's on PD. It's on Drive-Thru-RPG and PDF.
The best way probably to get it might be to get the PDF actually, because you can get the there's some adventures that come with it too. Now the adventures are actually part of the book if I remember correctly. Also.
Yes, they are. Northland Saga Complete has all of the setting, all of the character creation rules and alternate rules for characters for play, such as one of the things I added in it is of course rules for shield walls. I mean you have to. But also death curses. So your character is lying there dying, and you have a chance to levy a curse that has some sort of power right before you die.
You wrote this adventure, and this is probably the first thing I remember reading of yours. that I was just like, whoa, this is not like a regular kind of adventure. It's called The Death Curse of Oaken. Oh God, what's the name? I can't remember.
Sven Oakenfist.
Yes, Sven Oakenfist. That's a great little adventure. Now that was one of your first that came before the Northlands giant book, but
Yeah,
it was
that was
a small series of adventures. Like I think it was 3 or 4
NS3
adventures. NS3, and you did like 3 or 4 like kind of Northland themed adventures. And I remember reading that. That's a really cool adventure because it's very steeped in the Norse or Viking type legends. Where basically, if you have a chance, anybody out there, seek this one out. I'm sure we have the PDF at Frog Out Games. But yeah, you are you're somewhere and you basically get commanded by a dead person to do something, and you got to do it because it's a rule of hospitality. I haven't read it in a while, but it's something along those lines. And
because the Jarl whose hall you're staying at is suffering under a curse, and
right.
you're asked to help lift the curse, but to do so you have to gather information, and it takes you on a quest across the Northlands to talk to the 3 daughters of the Norns. So they're Fate's daughters, and each one is insane in some way. So Ursa believes that she is trapped, forced to repeat a heroic moment in a saga, basically drawn from the Nibelung. She's there to be rescued from a serpent, and she's chained to a rock. But she's there willingly, and the serpent is her pet. So you have to play along the role of the conquering hero, or she doesn't help you with your information. Another one of them is Mother Hengrid, who lives in a hut in the edge of the swamps, and she just wants to take care of your characters. And by the way, could you go out and chop some wood? By the way, my hellhounds need to be walked.
Yeah, I really, but I remember reading that one, Jordan. I also like the fact that after you do the things, even if you screw them up, you still have a chance of possibly completing the adventure. It just, I like stuff I like things from different kind of cultures like that. I ran an African-based campaign for many years. I actually ran a North-based campaign for quite a few years. I wish I'd had the Northlands book before I did that, because I could have probably taken a lot of stuff out of there. So this is something that's always interested you, because this is obviously, we had the show Vikings, and people are once, I remember when Vikings came out, everybody got all excited about that. Everybody, oh man, they all want to watch shit about Vikings, and everybody wanted to run a Viking campaign. But you were on this stuff earlier than that, way earlier than that stuff.
Oh yeah, history and archaeology have always been a passion for me, even as a child. I was fortunate enough that I'm a Navy brat. So I was fortunate enough my dad was stationed in Norfolk for a while. So we didn't have a lot of money. You know what was cheap in those days? Gas.
Oh.
So what are you going to do this weekend? We're going to Yorktown. We're going to Jamestown. We're going up to Gettysburg. It made for long days because, we couldn't afford hotel rooms, but we drove up to Gettysburg and spent the day there and then drove home. So I've got history. I got exposed to history at a very early age, and it's been a passion my entire life. Most of my game writing is very historically based. I went to college. I like to say that my father told me that my options were college, trade school, or the military, or I'd end up digging holes for a living. So I went and studied archaeology so I could dig holes for a living.
Oh, well.
you just said, oh, I'll dig holes, but I'll just do it my way.
So I did archaeology for many years and then transitioned into teaching, secondary education, and then eventually the university. And it wasn't the right fit for me. And at the time, I was starting to get published in the industry, writing some games, sending them off. Aliftar, Steve Jackson, Chaosium, Cubicle 7, and I said, you know what, I think I can make a living at this. And I've been going at it for, about 12 years.
Damn, wow. You are the exception that proves the rule, because
so when you were doing archaeology, I always hear, it's one of those professions you always hear people say, like, yeah, they always focus on the really cool stuff, but it's a lot of stand around and wait. Was that true of archaeology?
I did what's called contract archaeology. So it's CRM, cultural resource management. Anytime federal, state, local, county government money is used in this country, part of the environmental impact statement has to include an archaeological impact statement. So most of the time, we know there's nothing there. But in some parts of the country, especially in the late 90s, early aughts, where there's so much expansion of the cities outward,
right,
into farmland that has never had anyone walk over it and go, okay, there's no burials here, there's no villages here. That's clear. You can put a water line through. So that's what we did. And sure enough, it's hard to throw a shovel into the ground in most of this country and not turn up something.
Wow.
Turn up something interesting or valuable, or at least something that needs to be preserved. Quite often we were working right ahead of the bulldozers.
Ooh.
Yeah, because if you have a multi-million-dollar project going on, the last thing you want is a bunch of eggheads telling you to, whoa, hold up, we found a skeleton here. We need to get this out. And you're like, oh, Jesus.
Right. But if you do find a skeleton, and this happens several times, the coroner gets called, and the construction manager has the coroner come out, and the coroner comes out and says, nope, too old. And then they call us, and we come in, and, they have to wait.
Wow.
Yeah. I worked on, 7,500-year-old Native American burials that need to be carefully exhumed, preserved, and then repatriated. I've worked on pioneer era settlers' cemeteries that were buried under the farmland. Someone knocks over the headstones in 1840 and nobody cares.
Yeah.
And then they start plowing over it. So now we got to trace back the plow marks from the headstones that were found because they're putting in a new subdivision back to the graves. And
I saw Poltergeist. Yeah, you don't want that shit happening. No. Yeah. I know what happened.
And that's usually what, developers will tell us. They're like, so what can we do? And the best option is you leave them. The most expensive.
Just don't dig your gardens too deep.
Right. Well,
be careful when you dig your swimming pool. Yeah.
Usually what they do is they build a green space around it and put a little monument up.
Okay.
Smart.
Shows respect to the dead. No one's going to build their house there, which is actually illegal in most parts of this country to allow a house to be built on a undisclosed burial.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't know it's there, no one knows it's there. It's one thing. But if, you told the archaeologist, look, can you just cover that up and move on with your life? No, we can't.
So speaking of that, did you ever, were you ever enticed in some way? Like, this project's really just got to go through. Is there you could just kind of hurry this up and we'll just, and the guy's peeling $100 bills out of his wallet or something, because
that never happened. That never happened to me. I started off as a field technician. I was a crew chief on various projects when I moved on, transitioned into teaching. That you don't go up to the foreman and offer him money. You're offering it to the guy with the cell phone in his ear who's wearing a suit.
I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Got to bring it up the chain. You can't do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
My big involvement was, okay, so now how do we get this done? Go do it. Oh, okay, let's get this done. So
did you ever find anything very culturally significant? I mean, did you have some interesting discoveries at all when you the time you're doing
nothing groundbreaking? I mean, burials are generally fairly culturally significant, at least for the people you're repatriating to. One I did work on that actually changed some of the history. So in Colorado, right before World War I, there was a miner strike, and the miner union set up a tent city for them. The mine owners used standard tactics of the time. They called out the National Guard and machine gunned the camps. 23 women and children died in the massacre. And according to the official Colorado National Guard's history of it, the National Guardsmen stopped firing once they entered the burning camp and realized it was women and children. What we discovered during the archaeology of the site was they were using Springfields, and we found the cartridges all over the place.
Wow.
Oh, that means it was immediate. It was close.
Yeah, within the tent city. So they were still shooting once they went in. And we knew it wasn't the mine workers because the Union had bought them cases of rifles. And this is, geez, I worked this 20 some odd years ago. So I may be wrong on the calibers. But
Right.
One was 30-06, one was 30-30. So you can tell them apart. And we knew it wasn't the miners because it wasn't the right caliber.
So yeah, we've been told. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing I think is really interesting because that's the kind of stuff that gets codified as years go by. It's it's just kind of told over and over again. Then something pops up and says, whoa, this is not so.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that I love stuff like that. That's really interesting.
Well,
That's what, recently we just had a huge thing in our it's become very very popular literature about the Tulsa riots and how little we actually knew about those, and then suddenly people were starting to talk about them and just how unbelievably devastating those things were. And it's something I never heard of growing up. I mean, every once in a while you might hear something about it because I had relatives in Oklahoma, but it was always presented in a certain way that turned out was not true. And so, yeah, once the story started coming out, everything has changed about the history of the Tulsa riots. At least in my, the last 20 years or so.
Oh yeah, there's lots of little bits of history that are forgotten, neglected. Some things are big like the Tulsa riots, but small and widespread. I did some of my early work on ephemeral pioneer sites in the Midwest. So squatters, widows who were given a widow's gift when the land transferred after their husband died and were allowed to live on one corner of the land for the rest of their life. All sorts of people who don't appear in the historical record, but we know they live there. We found their shack. We found their well. We found, you can do core samples and find out where ground has been plowed, for example. And it's quite obvious. I mean, you see the ridges created by years of plowing. So these people who are forgotten, now everybody at the time knew they existed and knew that these were a whole class of people that sort of floated beneath the radar of the early 19th century. But to bring that out to the light of day and show people, look, there's always been this fringe of society that nobody else knows about.
Right.
Be it, squatters, modern homeless, role players, people on the edge.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story about archaeology that affected my family in a funny way. So my brother lives in a part, or Arlington, Texas, lives in a neighborhood there. They built a neighborhood. Years later, there's people digging their yard. They start finding these bombs in the yard, like a bomb, like you drop from a plane, but it's unexploded. And so they call out these people. And so they had some archaeologists come out there. Well, it turned out nobody mentioned this at the time, but where those houses have been built was a bombing range from World War II.
Yeah.
And what they do is that they just go out there, they would drop these things called phosphorus bombs because they would light up and you could see how close you came to your target. So it was something to train bombers so they'd know when to release their payloads. So what they did was they dropped bombs out there, 4 or 5 years. There's an Air Force Navy base over in Fort Worth. They would fly out of there, they drop the bomb in this field or these fields because nobody lived back in the day, 40s, nobody lived there. Nobody was there. And then they didn't bother about doing anything with them. So, after as decades go by, dirt gets stuck on top of these. Well, a lot of the bombs dropped and didn't explode. They would just hit and lay there. They've been sitting there rotting for, 50, 60 years. So people start digging their gardens. They dig deep enough, they find these bombs. So they had to have all these people come out. Well, eventually what they discovered was that the chances they would go off after 50 years were like pretty much nil. I mean, they wouldn't go off because you don't want a phosphorus bomb to go off. It can hurt you. It can kill you.
It's horrific.
So, but yeah, so they had a huge class action lawsuit against the builders because it turned out once they did discovery, the builders may have known about this and just not mentioned it when they sold the house. Because you have to do research when you buy these plots of land. Yeah, who used to own this land? Oh, the Air Force. Let's just not include that in there. And so, after several years, he ended up with a pretty good settlement from the builder. So he basically got his house for free because it was used as a bombing range. But it turns out the bombs were not very bad. But when he sells the house someday, he has to disclose that yes, we're on a bombing range, which could affect the value of the house. So the builders were, forced to give him X amount of money. But it was really interesting because it was a part of history everybody kind of forgot about in that area. And then once they started talking about it, a bunch of old timers were like, oh, yeah, I remember that now. I remember, we used to drop our bombs out there. And so they had these people on the news talking about, these old grizzled World War II veterans saying, oh, yeah, we used to drop our bombs out there. And so like, oh, that'd be nice to know before, we kind of like, bought our house on top of it. But like I said, luckily it turns out that they had a lot of experts look it over, and they said the bombs pretty much don't have a chance of going off. But yeah, for the first few people, the first few people that dug them up, they had some images on TV, and we're talking like a cartoon bomb. It looks like a big bomb, and they're digging in their yard. Does this have like a payload in it? It's going to blow the whole neighborhoods up. And then when they said, no, these were like what they call targeting bombs, blah, blah. But don't hit it with a hammer or anything. You don't want it to go off, but it won't blow your house up. But yeah, it could light you on fire.
I was working a dig at Fort Ben, which was used during World War I as training grounds. And out in the way back part of it that had never been really logged or clear cut or had anything done to it. Other than at one point, a bunch of doughboys ran through with gas masks and rifles and such for a couple days. There was still barbed wire out there, which was, the immediate hazard. But I'm working away, and I was crew chief, so I'm running around with a clipboard. And one of the technicians pokes his head up from the ground and says, "Hey, Ken, is this a hand grenade?"
Oh, Jesus.
Here, I'm going to throw it to you. Catch it.
Thankfully, it was, it had, decayed, deteriorated. The fuse, it was gone, and there was a hole through it, and there was nothing inside but dirt anymore. So maybe it was originally a dummy. Yes. But there for about a split second, I was like, that's it. That's it. That's what's going to say in the paper. Local archaeologist killed by World War I hand grenade.
Blown up by the last victim of World War II. Or World War. It was an archaeologist that dug too deeply. Well, that's very interesting. I think that's a good bullet point. Like I said, there's not a lot of us in the RPG industry that have that as something to go on. But I mean, I guess it helps in your writing, right? Because like you said, it instilled you with the love of history. And so,
and especially when you're working on fantasy, and like in the Tome of Wondrous Items, the Antikythera mechanism, I took that artifact, that well-known artifact, and said, okay, so we know this existed in our real world. We know that there's some textual evidence that similar things existed in Hellenistic Greece and into the Roman era. What could it be in a fantasy world? It's a clockwork mechanism for charting celestial events, stellar movements. Obviously, it needs a D100 table, and it's a planar transport device. But if you don't know how it works, you can just spin the dial, push the button, and find out where you go.
Ow.
Dangerous. Oh, well, my players would definitely push the button and do it. I know I would, but it's never safe.
No, it's not. It's a D100 table, so after you run through the 9 planes, it gets exciting.
Those are great. Nothing's better than throwing. Nothing's better than throwing the deck of many things on right in front of your characters, because everybody, half the party is going to go down. So I always love items like that. Yeah.
If you don't have anything prepared, you throw out the deck of many things, and you have a game session done for you. You might kill half the party
as everybody's dealing with the aftermath,
right?
For like hours after.
Everybody's going to push it one. Oh, I got to go a little bit further. Come on. Daddy needs a new Vorpal blade or something. I need a wish. Come on.
Right. So
you got your
Antikythera mechanism, and you can have your character spend time trying to figure out what each setting goes. There's 100 different settings. So you can spend a lot of time and use it as the impetus for a plane hopping campaign. But then what if you end up, in one of the 9 layers of hell, you're surrounded by barred devils, the Balrog's coming out of the pit. What are you going to do? Well, guys, let's just spin the wheels and see what happens.
Hell yeah. It's got to be better than here. And then it's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go there. Oh, wait, this is not better. Oh, darn.
Yeah. You're displaced physically, D6 times 10 feet to the left. Well, that didn't help.
Wait,
we're going to the future. Oh, wait, it's Gamma World. Oh, no. We're in a radiation field.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's the fun stuff. I mean, listen, even with Rapid Athic, the room with the magical slot machines, my players use that for a session and a half. Okay, a session and a half, because anything that gives a chance of random loot that your players can actually let them roll the die, they won't stop. They have to push it. Actually, the campaign ended shortly thereafter, I think.
That was it.
I think that it might have lasted maybe a session or two after that. I don't think they couldn't get that high back of gambling, and that's what it comes down to, right? It's gambling.
Oh yeah, back in I don't know, whenever it was in Dragon Magazine, late 80s, early 90s, there was a pull out, punch out cardboard deck of many things. If you remember that issue.
Oh yes. God, yes.
So okay. I picked that up at Walden Books. I don't think those are around anymore.
Yeah, they're gone. As long
only us old timers remember those.
Yeah, at the where was it? Grossmont Center Shopping Mall and
mall.
San Diego.
We're really going archaeology now. Oh yeah, we're
exactly. So I picked that up, brought it home, read the article, read the magazine back to back, because that's what I did at the time. And I was enthralled. I was like, yeah, I've never used a deck of anything. So I punched it out and I shuffled it and got it all ready. And that Friday, when all my buddies came over to play D&D, we're playing D&D, and you find this deck, and they're like, oh, okay. And they start playing with it, and they figure out how it works, and it just wrecked the camp. I mean, done. So I started bringing it out a lot because I was, 13, 14 years old.
Right.
And just excited with this thing, and I kept bringing it out. And one day, one of my buddies picked it up from the table and put it in his pocket and said, "You'll get this back when you're old enough to use it."
Oh, wow! He wasn't wrong. He was not.
He wasn't wrong.
Or you get to the point where we had a DM that used to screw us on wishes all the time, to where it got to where you didn't take the wishes because you got screwed. So
right,
so every treasure hoard would go, and you find a ring of 3 wishes, we pitch it. It's a ring of 3 wishes. You're gonna screw us. So we throw it away. We get rid of it. It's gone. And he got so mad at us. And so he just kept putting rings of 3 wishes in his hoards. We just kept throwing them away because he would just screw you whatever wish it was. It didn't matter if it was the most innocuous thing. I remember one time we were trapped in a cavern that collapsed, and he goes, "Well, you don't have any food or water." Okay, I got to ring 3 wishes. I'm going to wish for food and water. Oh, you didn't specify it was human food or water. It's food and water for an Otyug. I mean, okay, dude,
that's good stuff.
Come on. And so, yes, we used to pitch rings of 3 wishes. We'd give them to kids in the street. Here, kid, you want a ring of 3 wishes? Sure, mister. I mean, it got ludicrous after a while.
Unintended consequences.
We just get rid of them. Nope, not going to play that game anymore. We know how this works.
My current Pendragon campaign, they just realized after this past Sunday's events, where I don't know if you're familiar with Pendragon, but it goes through after Uther dies. There's a period of anarchy before Arthur draws the sword from the stone. And they decided that the heir to the county, the Earl's heir, is 3 years old, and they don't trust the Countess because they don't like her, so they staged a coup and overthrow their liege lord. And they're done, end of the session, and they're excited because they pulled this off. And they get to the end, and the guy who was made Earl, the player, just gets this 1,000-yard stare. And I'm like, "What's wrong?" He's like, "I'm in charge of all of this. I won, but what did I win?" I'm like, You won
There
a
you
county surrounded by Saxons and the crops are failing. See you next week.
Sing that time, sing
Hope
that
you got
time.
a game plan. Yeah, you better work your game plan out here.
Exactly.
But-
So yeah,
oh,
you know,
we need
that
to talk-
work when you get the deck of many things, and you know, you draw the death, and you're like, hey, what's this do?
The void. What is the void? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But by the way, speaking of Pendragon, we'll have to sit here and have you on to talk about Pendragon someday, because that is a great underplayed game.
Oh yeah.
And I will always curse Zach Glazer. Zach Glazer, he spoke so badly about Pendragon. He hates Pendragon. So maybe we have to have Zach on too, so we can beat on Zach.
Sure.
He thinks it's terrible because he thought he was going to play D&D based in King Arthur times, and that's not what Pendragon is at all. It's a generation game, right? I mean, You play all these years, and your last character is the great grandkid of the character that started out, or the grandkid, or
exactly.
I mean, it's very cool, very cool game.
The two things that we're having fun with right now is that the campaign's been going long enough that some of them are now starting to, okay, so my kid's going to be ready to squire in a few years. You're going to need a squire. Will you squire my kids? So they're squiring each other's kids within the player group.
Right.
The other thing that's driving, our group ranges in ages. So we got some middle-aged folks, we got some folks in their 20s. Is when one of the 23-year-old, 25-year-old players says, "Oh man, my character's 36 now. I'm getting old." The rest of us are like, "Oh, really now?"
Well, I guess for the time, that was an old.
For the time, and Pendragon at 35 is when you start making aging rolls.
Okay.
And she goes, "It seems weird that I'm losing 4 points from my ability scores." And then half the table stands up and it sounds like snap, crackle, pop.
Yeah, we're not all Tom Brady. Come on, man. Yeah, Tom Brady's a freak. The rest of us start getting old. At about 40, we're losing it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever had a chance, the thing about Pendragon makes it hard to play is you have to have a very dedicated GM, and you got to have dedicated players who because it's not D&D and King Arthur times. It's a totally different concept. But it's really cool, and if you like Arthurian legend stuff or medieval stuff, it's really a great game. So, and
it's a commitment. It covers 88 years is the Great Pendragon campaign, and you get through about a year a session.
But you can play other. You don't have to play the Great Pendragon campaign. You can play other.
You can play it other
aspects ways, too. Yeah, so that's the one time I played. We didn't play the Pendragon campaign. We just played like, hey, you're knights. It's during King Arthur's reign, and this is going on. You got to go solve a problem over here or do this. It was fun. I wish we could have played the longer version, but like you said, you just got to have a very dedicated DM or GM, and then
we locked into it for our weekly Sunday games.
That's cool. That's very cool.
And everything. Our Secret Santa this year is medieval themed. We occasionally make medieval themed meals because it's Sunday afternoon, so you gotta have Sunday dinner, right?
Right.
So sometimes it's meat pies and Guinness and mead and
nice.
So sometimes, because it gets hectic this time of year, like this past Sunday was a baked potato bar, because
whatever works,
whatever. We're supposed to be low key, and then one person says, "Oh, I got up at 5:30 Saturday morning and put this pork butt in the smoker, so I'm bringing over a pork butt."
You have the kind of games I like. Ours is usually where we're going to go for tacos. So I like that much better. Yes. Tacos or pizza, that's usually our decision.
Yeah, not normally pork butt. No, that's not normally.
No, that'd be wonderful.
At my gaming table.
Slow smoked pork butt in our home smoker, and then she goes, "And I didn't make any sauce, so I bought some at the store." And we're like, "Oh, well, just take it back."
Can't have store-bought sauce.
Oh, come on.
Well, so before we move on to other things, Ken, I want you to get a chance. I want you to pimp your Rocket Age, because I know that's something you still work on and still do.
Yes.
So, tell us a little bit about Rocket Age.
So I wrote Rocket Age 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
It's got to be, because I bought it when it first came out. I was like,
yeah,
cool.
And I shopped it around to various companies, and Cubicle 7 bought it. And we published the Rocket Age core book. And then I won an Emmy for it, Spotlight Emmy for me as a writer. And then it grew from there. And when I left Cubicle 7, I bought all the rights to Rocket Age.
Oh,
Yeah,
you wish.
They didn't even own the rights, but I still gave them the money. Hey,
There you go.
Isn't that the way it works now? We'll talk about that later.
I think so.
Oh yeah.
So I bought all the rights to Rocket Age and all the existing stock. So they sent along all of the files, and I had a pallet full of books arrive in front of my house. And started Why Not Games with my wife and with our good friends Sam and Will Dickey. And Sam was an artist. Will's the hype man. He's always been our hype man. And we kind of went from there. And with Why Not Games, we do Rocket Age. We did a 5e adaptation of it. We're keeping the product line going. We're writing new stuff for 5e, Catterday, Serial Bearfolk of the North. Little kind of like, you remember Traveler, and they had the alien modules?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Kind of like that concept, but for fantasy. So it goes deep into culture, deep into background and history, as well as game stats of the Catterday, which are, anthropomorphic cat people. The Suriel, which are bear folk. Little gray aliens, who are little gray aliens, if you want to put a little sci-fi peanut butter in that fantasy chocolate. And that's what we've been doing. We've been moving along pretty steadily. We just earlier this August, I think it was, we finished fulfillment for our Rocket Age 5e Kickstarter with Bold Brigands of the Belt by this hot new writer we found called Ed Greenwood.
I've heard about this guy. Yeah. I think he's
Ed
done a couple of things. I
Greenwood,
don't know. Done something.
One of the best days in my life, not ranking up with getting married or when my son was born, but pretty damn close, is when I'm talking to Ed Greenwood and he says, I've heard about Rocket Age. I've read it. I'm a big fan.
Wow. Yeah, that's yeah.
Okay.
I had nothing to say. I mean,
your erection lasted more than 4 hours after that. Yes. You were like, oh my God.
Now we know where he put the ring, yeah.
And then he went and he wrote a short story for our Rocket Age Tales from the Rocket Age anthology. And then when we did the Kickstarter for 5e, he said, yeah, I'd love to do a stretch goal for it. Could I do an adventure? Man, if you want to rewrite the whole book, you can.
We're just going to issue the next edition with your picture on the cover.
Exactly. I mean, if you want to do if the stretch goal video is, Ed Greenwood, choose out Ken Spencer, I'm in. What? How much do I have to pay for this? So it was great. It was great working with him. It was great getting his adventure published. A little bit behind because he's had some health issues, but that finished our fulfillment for our second Kickstarter, and now we're working on the next one, which. We'll see. We'll see when that is. We're a 2-person shop now. We lost Sam Dickey, who was one of our founding. She was our artist there for a while, and we lost another artist last year. So it kind of slowed us down because we're having to get art from other sources and deal with that whole issue.
Okay.
But we're starting to pick up again. We think. We don't know.
Well, everything got
everything got messed up.
Nothing went the way it was supposed to the last couple of years.
And then I'm now project managing at Frog God as well as writing, so it's kind of like, all right, a third of my day instead of 2/3, and
we tempted you with the painted lady of becoming a stockholder, and you
exactly.
We
you dangled a partnership in front of me, and I latched onto it.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, as someone who's been a partner, it sucks. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's great. I love it, Zach. I love you, Zach. We're glad to have you aboard. You're extremely. I don't often effuse over our guests, but Ken is an extremely talented writer guy. He's the kind of guy that when you write something, it's always going to be. it may not be the best thing you ever wrote or the worst thing, but it's always going to be publishable and good. It's always going to be good and publishable. It's not going to be like, ooh, this one, yow, So that's what we like about Ken is everything we have. He's the go-to guy. He's absolutely the go-to guy. So yeah, it's great to have you aboard. So yeah, that's good luck on this Tome of Wondrous items. It looks like I said, it's already funded. So anybody wants to get on board, I need to throw in my $40 here in a little bit here. And I probably will if I remember my password, which I always forget my password every week. Eric can tell you as I go to back and I'm like, oh wait, I forgot my password. I forgot my password.
Michael.
I know.
What am I going to do with you?
I don't. I used to not back that many Kickstarters. I started doing this damn show, and now I'm backing all these Kickstarters all the time.
Oh,
Speaking of which,
I've backed over 500, so I don't want to hear shit.
Oh yeah, yours.
Oh,
is
Kickstarters,
insane.
Indiegogos, you start backing them. Oh, especially during the start of the pandemic when everyone's like, "Oh, are we going to get the game whenever?" And you start backing just to help support the industry and the community, and then packages start arriving, and you're like, "This is awesome! Why do I
That's
have
what happened
it?"
to me last year. Yeah, I did the same thing, Ken, because I think it was Levi came with something last year. I really wanted to back him because it was during the pandemic, and then this other guy, then I saw the other guy. Then pretty soon, like you said, I had like 5 packages getting there. My wife's like, "I thought you didn't do Kickstarters." I'm like, well, I don't, but these guys, they need, they need money. I mean, come on. And so yeah, I'm getting packages every week.
My wife's a gamer. She's more of a board gamer, but she plays a lot of role-playing games too. And she was starting to give me a little bit of the side eye when packages were arriving.
Oh, I've been getting that for years.
And then Zombicide launched their Western version of Zombicide, and that's her favorite game by far. And then she backed at that on her own, and she doesn't ask about packages anymore. So I'm just a little worried for the future.
I've got Zombicide. I've never opened it. That's bad. That's when you start getting Kickstarters because it looks so cool. You're like, man, this looks so cool, and you get it, and 3 years later, it's still sitting in the same corner. It's all wrapped up, and you're like, oh yeah.
And I was surprised because when Walking Dead first aired, we sat down to watch it, and she's like, nope, that's too gruesome for me. I'm out. And that was it. She watched, the first episode and ducked out, and that's understandable. Everyone's got their own taste. But then I brought Zombicide home from Origins one year. It was a freebie that was given to the Cubicle 7 booth. Like, here, you guys, here's a couple copies of Zombicide. Enjoy. And the British weren't able to, fly it back with them. So the American staff got the copies. And I'm like, oh, great. I got this game. My wife's not going to want to play it, but the guys down at the game store will probably like it. And I opened it up and she started looking through it. And she said, well, let's lay this board out and see how it plays. And she just got sucked in right away. And just over. She's crazy about it. So at some point next year, there's going to be a box that arrives from CMON. And it's going to be huge. I may have to get the kid to help me carry it in.
Well, I had gotten the original game a long time ago. And then I think maybe somebody gave it. Then somebody gave me like either Black Plague or Green Horde. And so I've got a pretty. I've never. Is it worth playing it? I mean, I've just never even opened it to play it. I always wanted a really good zombie game. I just the ones I played, I didn't really like.
Of the classic one, and we played a little bit of the sci-fi one, Invader. We just ended up for some reason skipping over the Black Plague, the whole fantasy one. I don't know why. We just I didn't really push for it because it's not like I don't have enough fantasy miniatures. You can't see it, but I've got a closet that I need to put 3 more shelves in, or it's not going to hold the stuff that's sitting on the floor in boxes. Yeah, I've got a bit of a plastic addiction. But we didn't ever really got into that for whatever reason. But we played the hell out of the original Zombicide. We got a whole bunch of expansions. We had a Zombicide themed anniversary one year. I think it was our.
Oh my god! I got to play this game now. Green Horde's what I have. I have the box set that I have Green Horde. That's what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at the pictures. Yeah, so I've got enough to play on. Good Lord, those Kickstarters made $5 million. Jeez Louise.
Yes.
Holy crap! I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I got to get into this, and I'll have to pull this out at some point.
It's a fun game. one of the reasons we enjoy it is it's kind of scalable, the number of players. Because after we finish up our Pendragon game, there's still time left in the Sunday evening. So, and there's leftovers sitting there in the kitchen. So we tend to eat and then play some board games for a few hours before everybody goes home.
God,
and
you guys have fun. Jeez.
Yeah. Zombicide is one of those games where, like we really like Oceans and Wingspan, but they have a certain number of players. Zombicide, you could sit down and be like, okay, who's left? We got 7 people, or, there's 4 people left, but then someone shows up who's one of the gaming folks, and it's a small gaming community. We all know each other. So someone knocks on the door and says, hey, I heard you guys were probably still hanging around after your Pendragon game. Like, come on in, grab a plate, get some food, sit down, we'll play Zombicide. There's too many people for the other games. We played up to, I think we had 12 people playing once.
Wow. All right. I just bought, as we segue into tabletop gaming.
Yes.
I bought Gloomhaven finally because they had this great deal for Black
on
Friday.
Amazon. Yep.
On Amazon. Eric told me about it. I used your link even, Eric. So I got Gloomhaven for like $70 or something, $80 for it.
I don't know. I think it was like 80, but you got everything.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, up to then, the cheapest I found it was $100. I think the Game Hole, somebody had it, maybe it was Noble Knight had for $100. That's the cheapest I'd ever seen it. So I went ahead and got it. So I haven't opened that one yet either. Hopefully it won't sit in the... Okay, true story. Here's my tabletop gaming confession. When my grandson was real little, my oldest grandson now is 17. If you go to North Texas, you'll see him helping with my booth. When he was a little kid, I bought a bunch of... Because I'm so excited to have a grandson. I bought all these games. I thought, we get older, we're going to play these games. And so I bought the original Descent in the box. The original Descent.
Oh, yeah.
Runebound, all the Runebound games, all the Descent games, a couple other things. They're still in my closet in the original shrink wrap. They're probably worth a fortune now because we never got them out to play them. But I have all these tabletop games from like 15 years ago that are all that are just in perfect mint condition in my closet, and I thought, man, we're going to play the hell out. And then what happened was, in the case of Descent, is my friend Doug Ray, he got Descent and all the stuff, and he had it opened already. So, like, why open my copy? He's got them all open. And so we can play his. Now, I never played Runebound because I just never played it. So, but yes, I have a lot of aspirational gaming when it comes to tabletop. Now, RPGs, I'll at least look through it and read it, but tabletop games, I have the original Pandemic game. I bought that back about 15 years ago. That looked like a great game to play, and it's a great game. It is a great game. I played it. It
is a great game.
My copy's never been
man, we my wife, we have Pandemic from a more recent printing, still in the shrink wrap because my wife thought it would be a fun board game to get for our son last year for Christmas.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah,
and he opens up the gift and he goes, "Really?" Really? And just set to the side.
It really is fun. Yeah. Oh yeah, I really have got to get those tabletop games outside and play them. My kids tend to like the same game. There's a game called Spurs they like, and it was reissued as another name. It's a Western game. They love that. They want to play that all the time. And we're just talking in the chat over here. Zombies. There's this game, Zombies. You lay out these tiles, and you have these little plastic zombies chase you. They love that game. You can play it in 30 minutes, and they will play the hell out of zombies. They love zombies, but they tend to just like 3 or 4 different games, and they don't want to. Okay, you want to play this game? No, I don't want to play that. You want to play this one? Nope. I just want to play zombies. Okay, we'll just play zombies again. Whatever's fun, So
we've got quite a few in there that aren't getting. What did my wife get for her birthday a few months ago? Everdale, and we've only played it once, but she also got Betrayal: House on the Hill Legacy.
I have. Oh, that's the other one I have. Now the grandkids aren't really old enough, I think, to enjoy that yet. But I have House. I have that one. I have I have the original. Was it Avalon Hill that came with it originally? I can't. I have the original version, and that was another one I bought. My grandson was real little, thinking this is going to be great to play when he's older. Now they have a 2nd edition and 3rd edition. I don't know. They have like 5 editions of that.
I would recommend Betrayal Legacy. It is incredible.
Betrayal. Yeah. Betrayal of the House on the Hill. I have that. I've actually unwrapped it because I did read it. And I thought this is a little too adult for the kids right now.
Yeah.
But I think they're at that age right now. They're 17,
Oh,
14,
they
and
certainly
12.
can.
So I think can play that.
It's not that adult. My son's been playing it since he was about 10. It's not gruesome. It's just, you know.
I mean, it looks like a great game, and I've seen it
fun,
played.
yeah.
So yeah, it's
and
it's
the
fun.
Legacy Edition is incredible because you're writing on cards, you're ripping cards up, you're taking stickers off the sheet and putting it into the rule book, and the rules change.
Very cool. Okay, I'm gonna look for the Legacy Edition then. I like games like that. That's cool. Yeah, I do like a lot of. There was a couple. I'm trying to think. There was like somebody mentioned the Robo Rally. We that was actually when we played. David mentioned Robo Rally is it's still a fun game. It's old, but it's very fun. My oldest grandson loved Robo Rally. That was one of the ones he always liked to play. Oh,
and a good game, if it's good enough, it's going to be fun forever. We still break out every now and then, kill Dr. Lucky.
That is a great old game. That is, oh man, I haven't played that in 20 years. That used to be, that was one of the, it originally came out as one of the, what are they called? The mini game? Not mini
games. The cheap ass games. I've got
games.
Several. They're about this big, maybe digest size cardboard box, and there's no pieces in it. Just
I love those. You bring them to conventions and stuff. They used to be like the old mini games from Steve Jackson and stuff.
And TSR, the vampire game.
All right, so we've waited long enough, and thank you so much, Ken, and obviously stay around to comment.
Of course.
But we had a couple of interesting items happen today, and usually Eric and I will talk about current events in the gaming industry, and so, but usually it just kind of rolls along, nothing happens, and all of a sudden,
it's been quiet for a while. Yeah,
no, it's been quiet. It's around Christmas, everybody's taking their Christmas bonus and going off to Tahiti or whatever. There's usually not anything popping up. So imagine our surprise this week when lightning struck, and it was just, when it struck, it was spectacular. And Eric and I are rubbing our hands together gleefully, going, "Oh man, this is some great stuff." So I'm going to let Eric talk. Let Eric talk here about our.
Which one do we want first?
Let's start with TSR. We're going to start with TSR.
Oh, okay. See. So you're gonna have your cake first. That's okay.
Oh yeah, I eat the dessert first. I go straight for the dessert cake. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna mess around with salad. No salad here. No aperitifs. We're going straight to the meat of the matter here.
So what happened is late last night, I get a private message from somebody, and it shows that TSR, Limited Liability Company, had filed a suit against Wizards of the Coast. Nature of the suit is trademarked. There was no details, but I was like, oh, that's very interesting. But it was late at night, so I went to sleep. And I woke up to not less than 12 other people sending me PMs related to this. So I did a little bit more digging, and thanks to some lawyers in our gaming community, who later sent me more information, but there's an Indiegogo, not to go too fast, but there's an Indiegogo by TSR/Justin Lanasa, and I swear to God, it's become a champion of TSR and support TSR's campaign against Wizards of the Coast. So if you want to tilt windmills, here is your chance.
They've hit 1% of their flexible $50,000 goal. Come on, man.
I hate that.
They've got $700.
All right, it just swapped me. All right, hold on. What happened with this? Gosh, darn it. Yep. Okay,
yes, there we go. Their Indiegogo has $723. It has $6 more than when we started tonight.
All right. So, well, actually, here, let me refresh that page. Let me just.
Yeah.
Nope, 723. Let's be honest.
Yeah, as I said, it's got $6 more than when we started tonight. Somebody dropped $6 there.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. Somebody pointed out that like $600 of this is anonymous, like nobody's owning up for it. So, and not to be outdone, if you check the facts, there's a question. Can I donate but not have my name shared with the public? Because You know, and of course, yes, after you've made your donation, email contact@tsr-hobbies.com with the title, "Do not share my name," and clearly state who you are in the body. So, if you want to support TSR in their action against Wizards of the Coast, now here's what I found interesting. If you read the description that they give you here, it really sounds like they are filing a suit about libel and slander and cyberbullying.
I think Lanasa joined us here in the chat, Eric.
The naked girl? All right, hold on.
Well, there's no mention of grits, so maybe it's not.
No, it's got to be different naked girls.
There's other naked girls. There's lots of naked girls in the world. So yeah, it could be from anywhere.
TSR is taking a stand against Wizards of the Coast and its wrongful bullying, mind you, bullying of TSR, our trademarks, and its public libeling and slander of all those who helped create TSR-based Dungeons and Dragons and products. So you read that and you're like, wow, they're suing Wizards of the Coast for libel, slander. I know it's got to be legit because, Lanasa told me last year that I could be putting myself in legal jeopardy for some of these videos that I was doing. And I should watch what I was saying because there could be consequences. Well, Wizards of the Coast apparently is facing consequences, but not like you think. No. This is Wizards of the Coast has continually bullied TSR regarding TSR's legally owned trademarks. And I'm not going to say that these trademarks were, stolen. They were more like, it's like a sniping, all right? Like you find something on eBay at a low price and you snag it right before it gets pulled. They realize, oh, the TSR trademark is free. I should not forget this part either. When they snagged all these TSR trademarks last year, they forgot to do one very important thing, which they didn't correct until, I think, September of this year. And you know what that was, Mike? They forgot to actually snag the TSR trademark for the letters. They grabbed the graphical ones. So in theory, although the other one, TSR 2, second edition of TSR, let theirs lapse, the same firm, I believe, that is handling this lawsuit failed to actually snag the right trademark at the time. I'm not saying anything about the law firm that's involved. I'm just saying something got forgotten. So they're being continually bullied over these legally owned trademarks, and Wizards of the Coast has refused to answer all of TSR's repeated requests that they show any proof of their claims. Wizards of the Coast has vast resources, extra space in the sentence, behind them, and is implying to bring them to bear down on TSR. I'm going to tell you right now, I can tell Justin wrote this because the
misspell words?
Grammar is just piss poor. Yeah. Typos. But we have even more TSR stuff with typos we can talk about in a little bit. So, because of this, and by the way, they're going to fight after they secure their trademarks. Their next fight will be to have Wizards of the Coast legacy disclaimers removed from legacy products. You remember that one, right, Mike?
How can? First of all, yeah, that. Oh,
go ahead.
I don't want to get wound up yet. No. You keep rolling because I don't want to get wound up yet.
No, Mike, say it, please.
Well, first of all, even though they promote this as a prominent part of why they're doing this, it's not mentioned in the lawsuit at all. This is not mentioned in the lawsuit. This is just something they threw in there to get everybody fired up, to get all the old neckbeards fired up, because it's not mentioned in the lawsuit. And it doesn't have any effect because I hate to break this to people who don't know it yet. TSR 3 is not TSR. It never has been. It never will be. It's not. And so they keep promoting themselves as the legacy and the heir of TSR, but they're not. They still have never published anything. Nobody that works there ever. I mean, Ernie never published anything. Lisa never. I mean, they never. These are not. This is not the TSR that published X1 and B2 and S1, all the classic TSR modules. So the fact that they're fighting to have this removed off of legacy disclaimer material is laughable, because it's not going to affect their sales at all or anything they do at all, because they don't publish anything. They don't have the rights to anything, the old TSR. So it doesn't make it
imply often that they do. That is part of the issue with them. Now,
well, they imply that they're the heirs, that the heirs of the TSR name, and they're not. They're just somebody that came along and bought the logos off eBay, like you said. I mean, they just bought the logo, and so yes. So
Chadzar says, now this is a flexible funding. If you don't know how Indiegogo goes, there's flexible and fixed. And flexible basically means you pledge, the money comes out of your account, and the money is going to go to the person you pledged for. So as I said earlier today, don't be a troll and say, hey, I'm going to pledge $5,000 and then I'm going to give them a fuck you and pull it away a few days later, and they're going to feel like shit. No, they're going to be laughing at the bank because it's flexible. They keep it. You're shit out of luck. So don't think you're going to do that one. Just saying that. Now, here's the other thing. Wizards of the Coast owns the IP that this legacy disclaimer is in. So there is nothing TSR can do except bitch and moan. And I hate to listen. I am somebody who is very much against the disclaimer. I think it is bullshit. I don't think it's needed. Do I think it's an insult? Sure. But I'm not going to raise monies on something that I have no ability to change. TSR, Justin Lanasa, or anybody else with him, has no more ability to change that than myself or Mike or anybody else you know.
And it wouldn't help them if they could, because like I said, like we said, they don't own any TSR product. No. If tomorrow WotC removes that legacy disclaimer, it doesn't affect TSR one way or the other, because they're not making any money off this material, and they have no rights to this material, which is all work for hire, and this is not part of their company. They keep making these attempts to appear like they are the heir apparents to the TSR name, and they're not. They're carpetbaggers. The people, yes, they have Ernie on staff who worked at the Dungeon Hobby Shop, and that's really about it. And they have Jeff Leeson on staff, who was part of TSR in those years, but his name doesn't appear on any of the, what we would call the classic. Now, I'm not, trying to tear up these guys' legacy or anything. I mean, they do have a legacy in the hobby, but it's not as, I think somebody mentioned it there. Yeah, they'd be a lot different if Bruce Hurd and Jim Ward and Tracy and Laura Hickman and Tim Kask and Frank Menser were saying something about that, because at least they have some skin in the game.
Right. They have no skin.
They have no skin. They have no skin in the game. Zero. Zilcho.
What I don't understand about them is it's not that difficult to publish an OSR anything.
Bingo, Ken.
And that's all it would take. They put out a couple of adventures, maybe a setting, maybe their own take on an OSR rules system.
I know you don't watch our show because no human that's intelligent as you would ever do that, Ken, and I support you. But Eric and I talk about that all the time. We're like, what would have been so hard about them taking over the TSR name and publishing 5 old school modules written by Ernie and written by Jim and written by Jeff and all these guys, just to stake a claim in saying, look, we're part of the old TSR, do it in the old TSR style. Eric and I have been saying this for months. And like you said, you can it's not that hard to make a retro clone. You can do it. And that way, at least you'd have something to be published. And you could truthfully say, look, we're publishing modules in the style we like, old school style, and because we want to support the game. Instead, they've done nothing. They've literally done nothing. Except for a board game that we'll talk about in a little bit. A board game that's got some glaring issues with it too.
So now Cal mentioned something, and I was going to get to this. and it would be a perfect segue to what we're going to talk about later, but we'll still hold on to later for later. After the deluge, when the battles are all said and done, any leftover funds from this cause will be donated to the Gygax Memorial Fund out of Lake Geneva, which the Gygax Memorial Fund was
the one that hasn't done anything for 10 years. That's a good.
Yeah. It was kind of taken. It had flatlined for like the last couple of years, and now it's basically been returned to life support. God only knows how.
A couple little beeps. Yeah, you hear beep. It's kind of beeping a little tiny bit.
Maybe Ken actually had one of his magic items was available to like return this to life. I don't know, but
it's
we're gonna touch on that in a little bit. So, what else can we say about this? I could play the video that Justin Lanasa did.
Oh dear God, please no.
But I listen. You can find it on the Indiegogo page. Okay, I will link this because I listen. Should people go to this page and read this crap themselves? Certainly. Should you make your own decision? Certainly. Should you listen to Justin Lanasa and realize why he was a failed politician? Definitely. Because if this is the best take, listen, Mike and I will tell you what we do here, it's one and done, right? We do live streams. Our production quality is shit. Neither one of us are asking you for $50,000. We're not begging, right? If you're going to beg, you should put your best foot forward, clean your fingernails, you put your hand out, and explain to us why you need $50,000 coherently and well presented. And again, if this stilted video where Justin looks awkward is the best that he could do, and I'm going to assume he did multiple takes because they're asking for $50,000. They wouldn't just do one take. I'm disappointed. I actually expected more.
But as Ken said, as we have said, do something. Show us you care by doing more than just bitching about it. Because all they've done is bitch, and then they join with Wonderfield. Then they had a little slap fight with Wonderfield. Now they all stomped home, walked, and they hate each other now, I guess. But they haven't done anything. That's all they've done is bitch and moan and say how they're not racist or misogynist, but they haven't produced anything. And I think you would be forgiven a lot in this industry if you at least produce stuff. And say, look, because then you could point to something and say, look, this is something we did. We support old school gaming because we wrote, B 2.7, the keep against the other Borderlands. I mean, just anything. Just the keep against these Borderlands over here, not these Borderlands. I mean, just anything would have. Yes, and that's the whole thing is quit bitching and crying and create something and fucking sell it. And that's a good way to make money. Tom Wilson and I, we wrote a module X 1.5. Obviously, it's a spinoff of Isle of Dread called Dead Men Tell New Tales. We had blue screen maps, the old great blue maps. It's mono, just like people used to love in the old days. It's got old font. It's got. I mean, the only thing new on it, there's a new cover that we got Matt Ray, I can't remember his name, to do the front and back cover, but everything else is stock art. We did it. We published it. I mean, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Tom did all the work because Tom's smart. And you know what? We've sold like 500 copies of it. That's all you need to do. If I can do it and Tom can do it, you could do this. It's not impossible to do. Do an old school homage module, but don't sit there and cry about it.
It's easier to grift, or at least some people. And I'm not going to come out and say this is definitely a grift, but it certainly smells like one. So if you go to tenkarstavern.com, the post from earlier today, thanks again to some good friends in this community, I was able to put up, if you'll see some highlighted orange links, you can download the actual filing for this case. You can download Exhibit A. Now, Exhibit A is interesting because Exhibit A is the email that Justin's representatives got from Wizards of the Coast's lawyer when it comes to infringing on trademarks and IP. And one of the things that they point out is Star Frontiers. Remember when they announced Star Frontiers and they announced it using the actual
picture? Yeah,
one.
Yeah,
and
that's
and on that same part of the email, they included is the screenshot from drive-through where Wizards of the Coast is selling the exact same item, thereby showing that not only is the trademark still being sold and used, but it's copyrighted material when it comes to that cover, which was foolish. And I'm going to tell you right now, the problems with TSR 3 or new TSR is that they step on their own dick. It's unforced errors. They didn't need to have this error. Wizards of the Coast, 6 days after this was put up on Facebook, sent the letter that you're seeing on the screen now. 6 days, which means that Wizards of the Coast, with the graphical trademarks, was kind of like, is it worth it, right? Is it worth it? Maybe not. Maybe it's not really worth it. Wait a second. You're actually going to re-release Star Frontiers? You're hinting that you own the trademark and IP? I think that's when they woke up the sleeping giant. Again, an unforced error. It didn't have to happen. Now,
because when you do something like that, you're forcing WotC to reply. Because if they don't, then this could be held against them in a future court case. You're not defending your material. You basically force their hand by doing this, because you can only go so far, and at that point you have to release a cease and desist letter, which we assume was sent to them, because after they announced this, all of a sudden they backtracked for like 2 weeks, right? They went silent. They got rid of all their social media and they backtracked. Oh yeah, we were just joking about that. We didn't really do that. So yeah, that was probably what happened, is that, they were forced to reply. You can only do so much before a lawyer calls you and say, look, you better start defending your trademark here, or your IP, because you guys are pissing all over it.
Now here's the thing, and there's a reason why I personally like this third page of the screenshots here, the third page of the email, because being used right there on the screen that you're looking at now is a screenshot from the tavern, where I took a screenshot of their Facebook post where the Dungeon Hobby Shop would like to announce that TSR has been successfully resurrected. Now, again, they're claiming that they are the original company. I think that's going to screw them in their lawsuit. They're not claiming that, well, we just took the name. No, they're claiming the lineage. Anyone that is an OSR game designer, game publisher, or fantasy book publisher, period. Again, Lanasa, so the grammar is going to suck. New sentence. That would like to be licensed to use any of these 5 trademarks, feel free to contact us. So not only did they claim the trademarks, but then they decided they were going to license out the trademarks to third parties. So
that just waters it down. I mean, as a speaking as Why Not Games, as a small publisher, although there's some cachet for having and assuming that this was all legit and they actually could do this legally and it wouldn't then expose us to additional liabilities. If anybody and their brother can get that trademark, then it's not valuable from a marketing standpoint. It doesn't make your product distinctive.
Right.
Because I mean, Ken's an accomplished author, and if he wanted to put Rocket Age under the title of Star Frontiers, and then
the Star Frontiers edition.
But then I'm over here and I'm drawing on a piece of cardboard with a crayon, but I also buy the trademark, and I that's also coming out for Star Frontiers Bad Mike's game that he spent 2 hours on. Yeah, Ken doesn't want to do that because that's gonna knock his product down in value. It just shows,
and they'll take money from wherever shows up.
Well, sure.
Oh God. Yeah, it's like whoever. Yeah, we'll license it. So TSR, of course, Wizards of the Coast. God, I hate the fact that I can't say TSR and actually mean what historically was TSR. They basically wanted the infringement of the copyright and their trademarks abandoned, and gave a date of written confirmation by July 9th. I'm guessing that's when there was a whole, what do we do? What do we say? What do we do? What do we say? And then they said, fuck it, let's go all in 5 months later, right? Now, I find it interesting that this happens, gets filed, right when we find out that the Gygax Memorial Fund is up and running again and live. But there's something that Mike found out that he pointed out that I really think I need to leave. Mike, you have to talk about this one. What?
Oh my God! So this is a game called Dungeon. I mean, it's called Dungeon Crawl. Oh, I had it marked here. I knew you were going to ask about it, of course. Oh, here it is. Oh, I know. I took it down because I was doing something else. Anyway, it's a game. So they announced that they have written something. It's a game called Dungeon Crawl. It looks nice. I mean, I looked at the cover. It didn't look like it was cheap or terrible.
Yeah, hold on. I'll show you the display.
Yeah, Dungeon Crawl. I don't think it's necessarily very original. It just says with Ernie Gygax. There's actually a picture of a game board there. I mean, this is actually somebody's done something here. There's cards. So, I mean, this isn't total vaporware like the Star Frontiers is. Now, if you're wondering why they have to put Tensor, TNSOR, because they can't use Tensor, obviously.
Yeah.
They can use Gygaxian Ring. So, but I mean, it looks semi-professional. I mean, this is better than I've seen games look worse than this. Look, there's a game board. Something's going on here. So this is obviously something that the Lanasa is strong stuff for them. But then I looked at the last picture there, the Ring of Confusion, and I was immediately very confused. So the Ring of Confusion lived up to its potential. This all I did was read this, and I realized this game has never been through an editing process. Because here's the description written on there. As a player, so this is what happens. Pick a player. They must say versus revenge. Okay, unless they're singing a song, it should be VERSUS. That's something you would pick up if an editor looked at it. Now, if you just did spell check, you wouldn't pick that up. So it tells me this is just spell checked. It was not actually read by a human being. It was spell checked. Then read the rest of the description. If they fail, then they are more confused than they act. Their next roll is backwards. I read that 10 times and I still don't know what it means. So I am confused. The Ring of Confusion, it
works.
Worked.
It's legit.
Yeah.
I was absolutely confused.
I'm assuming a backwards roll is some sort of game mechanic. I don't know. I don't know
about the game. It looks like it's just very confusing. But look, this is probably just a test version of the game. You know, you still shouldn't have the word versus misspelled. But it's a test version of the game,
and not on your sample, not on your on your sales page. Because listen,
on your sales page when you're announcing there's 300 limited copies for $50 each. Right. Yeah, this is when you need to like throw out your best look. And honestly, if they left that last picture off, you might have been looking at it like, oh, you know, this might be something interesting. It's like there's cards involved, and I don't know. It looks sufficiently old school, but yeah, that last picture just took me wah wah wah. I was just like, oh, they haven't edited their game. Oh my God.
And you should have, before you go to that level of mock-up, you should have edited thoroughly. I mean, this is what it starts off with when you're doing board games and cards. Blank note cards you're writing notes on, and you're writing it out and you're testing it because you want, when you go to pay for that print job, you want it to be done.
But you're
you're going to have some mistakes in there, and you're probably going to have some rules issues. But that's a terrible front foot to put forward, is to have one of your cards a misspelled word in a very incomprehensible card. You know, somebody should have looked at that and said, "Whoa, versus is spelled wrong on this card. Use this card over here. This other card would work better. That card is that's spelled wrong." But you know, it just reeks of the same level of amateurism this whole new TSR has just put forward, is that they're not really serious about anything. I mean, at least that's what makes me think. I look at it and think they're not serious. You know, they could be as serious as death. I don't know, because from what I'm seeing, it doesn't appear that they're serious. And that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to put forth, look, we're a legitimate company. We're going to actually do things. But then that stunt with the Star Frontiers rules where they're like, there's only 2 copies made. Who makes 2 copies of a game and then doesn't open the cover? It just shows you a cover. It says, here's our 2 copies of the game we made. Nobody does that. Come on, guys.
Oh, and by the way, folks, I don't think I've mentioned this, but the new Star Frontiers is, according to their character sheet that has been shared, is D20 OGL. So it's not a percentile system. So not only is the IP not going to be anything like the Star Frontiers that you knew, the system is not going to be anything like the Star Frontiers that you knew. But
no, it's a brand new game, yeah.
If I wanted to play a D20 OGL Star Frontiers, then why don't I just, and the PDFs are available on drive-through now, pick up D20 Modern and the source book for it.
Oh, come on. Let's not even... You know, if you start making sense...
It makes me wonder how much they are actually consumers within the hobby. If they're not...
That's a question. Yeah, that's been a question about him a long time. This guy's just like I said, he's a carpetbagger. Is he really... Is this something he really thinks he wants to do, or is this something he thinks he can make a few bucks on? Because so far we haven't seen anything serious come out of this. No. A serious serious publication. He's friends with Ernie. That's great. Mm-hmm. He's friends with Jeff. That's wonderful. But other than that, what have you done for me lately? Well, not much.
So now what's up on the screen is the old TSR Game Wizards Man in the Moon logo.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as of the 7th, it was cancellation pending. So I would guess that Hasbro is getting the trademark office, at least, to recognize their rights. Now, that might be because copyright. Now, my understanding is that Justin hired artists to redraw the classic trademarked logos to avoid copyright. I believe there were small changes done on each, which in my mind, I'm not a lawyer, but if you're taking those actions, it seems to me like you are trying to skirt the law and you're not doing something in good faith. But again, I don't know. I'm exhausted. Oh, there's going to be... We're going to get all our dislikes after this part of the show, because...
Please, I hope we get some at least.
Well, listen, there's at least 3 or 4 real heavy TSR fanatics that are... They accuse me of bullying TSR because, I talk before doing my research, as opposed to others who just take the TSR word and parrot. But in any case,
we need a better name for them, because I have fond memories of TSR from the 80s.
So do I.
I know, it's terrible. It's terrible having to say TSR when it's not TSR. That's why I like either new TSR or TSR3 or whatever. We need to think of a better
TSR
name too, though, Eric.
We call them the Cubists.
Ooh.
The Cubistas.
Ooh.
But they just, and now that you have Wonderfield, they kind of went their own way and they're doing their own thing, which, by the way, they had a lot of announcements this week too. We didn't even talk about, Eric, but Wonderfield has said they're going to start fulfilling stuff, I think December 20th. I think they said, I think that's what they said. Because they cut off early sales. They cut off their early sales. And
yeah, because they got to get that beta out. Like, if you buy the first printing, which is really the beta, then you can get credit as a playtester in the real version. So basically, they want you to buy it twice, right? Is that really how that works? I think. I don't know. I don't really know if TSR wants you to buy anything in the long run, because they really don't offer all that much. But hey, apparently last December 14th, Gail Gygax resigned from the Gygax Memorial Fund as president.
Which we did not know.
We did not know that for 11 and a half months. And this website, by the way, was not live for, I don't know, a year or two. If you go to the Wayback Machine for, I don't know, September of this year, it's 404. But apparently there are updates or kind of like blog posts going back throughout 2020. And I kind of feel like they are a little, the dating is maybe it's accurate for when these events happened, but they're certainly not accurate for when the events were actually published. But apparently nothing happened in this year in 2021. It only covers last year so far for 2020. But Gail resigned. Paul Stormberg, he took over various tasks. I guess that's why he's getting paid. First person to get paid by the fund. Also, coincidentally, he's probably the reason why there is a disputed will going through the courts in Wisconsin, because the will was never filed because nobody thought it was worth filing the will, because nobody thought the estate was worth anything. And then Stormberg started putting together lots of Gary's stuff for auction, and the value quickly exceeded $50,000. And then the children filed the will.
So I don't know if we've covered this before, and so
right.
And it's full disclosure, we've had Paul Stormberg as a guest at a couple of North Texas RPG cons. He's a big historian of the game. He is in charge of running Paul Stormberg auctions, which has been going for over a decade now, and they're considered, probably the biggest auctioneer of ex-TSR people and gaming personalities. He is also in charge of auctioning Gary Gygax stuff. Gary Gygax had a basement full of items. Gail put him in charge of auctioning it. So, he has a history in the industry. He's a historian. He runs at GaryCon every year. He runs the old, what's that room called where they have all the really old games? I can't remember.
Oh, I know what you're talking about too.
But he puts that on, and they have stuff like the horse lance game that they used to run in all the early Gen Con games. He's got this big giant moat house. They run a miniature battle, the Battle of the Moat House, every year. So he has a history in the game. He's been around quite a long time, and he's friends with Gail because he's been auctioning Gary's stuff off for now quite a few years now. Like I said, we've had him. So full disclosure, we've actually had him as a guest in North Texas, and I know him pretty well. We've talked to him quite a bit, and I'll say this: having him associated with it doesn't hurt it a bit.
God!
Matter of fact, because at least he has a reputation in the industry for being honest and for getting things done. I do think, and I would tell Paul this to his face, I do think he might give Gail too much the benefit of the doubt. I know why he does, because he's auctioning off he's not going to say anything bad about Gail. Let's put it that way. He's not going to say anything bad about her because of his position of what he does. But yeah, the fund's in a much better position now than it was 2 years ago if he's the one in charge of it. I don't know how much he can change things until Gail passes away or the stuff's figured out.
According to the statement, she resigned as president and all positions of authority. She is only there to advise, and Paul is also in charge of the funds. So, for the first time, something that people have been asking for years, myself included, because I've been taking care of this by getting the taxes every year as they got filed and putting them up on the blog and doing my breakdown. Paul has put up from 2010, when the fund started, through 2020, the balance sheet. And what is a shame, and this is no reflection on Paul, but you can certainly see the fund hit a height of $222,000 in 2014, and now in 2020, it's at $195,000 and nothing to show for it. We've gotten nothing over the years. So, I'm hoping that we see something from this in the short run. There's a thing about the proposed memorial, which is Gary sitting at a table, basically at his throne, and you can gain by sitting next to it. This is better than the Fonzie. I don't know, statue that was initially. And I say Fonzie. It was the guy the artist that did the Fonzarelli statue was going to do.
Oh my God,
statue.
That statue's terrible. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes,
yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name, but that was that was not. Yeah, hopefully Paul is doing something with that too, because I know one of the big sticking points. This is all written history. Is that Gail? First of all, she wanted the memorial in a certain part of the park. They would not let her put it in, and she was immovable on that. Absolutely immovable. Would not. And so, if you know anything, and I've been told by people who live in Lake Geneva, who know how the Lake Geneva City Council works and how the history of the city goes, is they're very stuck in their ways. And if they don't like you, they don't like Gail because they think Gail was Gary's different. Gary grew up in the town. Gary was there. That they think that she's a Johnny come lately, and that that they're basically not going to let her push them around, is their attitude. So it gets to the certain point where Gail just poisoned the well so terribly there that they weren't going to let her do anything. So there's not just the location of the statue, but the fact that there really hasn't. I mean, I saw the proposal, and I mean, nobody seems to really like the proposal of what the statue is. And his own kids say that Dad wouldn't want a big picture of it, wouldn't want a statue with his head on it. He was sitting there, and so
listen, the whole thing. They still talk about they're going to have signed bricks, like you're going to be able to sponsor bricks, because the issue is there's probably enough money still there to make the statue, but you need funding for perpetuity, or however many years it was, 50 years of maintenance. And the bricks were supposed to pay for the maintenance. And Gail has been promising the sales of these bricks for years. I fully expect now that Paul is involved in this process.
He can actually get this done. Yes, this is something he can get done.
So, but it was a shock, though, for me to find this out, because one of the taverners received an email from Paul Stoneberg, and part of the signature was President, Gygax Memorial Fund. And then I did a little research, and then I found that the website was up, and then I found more info. I was like, oh, interesting. So basically, for almost a year, Gail has not been in charge of the fund.
Which is interesting in itself, but it makes a lot of sense because she's had a lot of issues. She's had some health issues. I mean, just quite a bit of other things. Every once in a while, she will... Oh, shoot, I don't want to get sued. She'll throw something up on Facebook, let us just say, that is not, that she takes down 24 hours later. So she'll post something, and then she'll get a lot of people on her page going, Gail, you need to take this down immediately. And then about 24 hours later, it comes down. So she's been doing that for a few years now. So it's probably a good thing that she is stepping back from the fund and letting Paul take over. If nothing else, it will be run in a much more competent fashion. And like I said, Paul has been doing the Stormberg auctions for over a decade. He knows what he's doing. He has a trusted name in the industry. So I think it's under much better stewardship with Paul than it was with Gail. So I know for a while, I think she'd appointed Alex as president, and he didn't really want to do it, or wasn't really that interested.
He was appointed to the board.
Yeah,
and maybe I'm going to say vice president, but he's still on the board right now. The board is Paul, Gail's sister, and Alex. So those are the three members of the board. But I would say that at this point, Paul is likely the one doing the yeoman's work. And I've been contacted by a number of people who are very reticent to contribute to the fund going forward because of the way it has been run in the past. So I think that they're going to have to show some positive steps. I think these are positive steps from my point of view. I think they're going to have to really show some movement before you start raising money for it again.
Yeah, he's got to erase a lot of really bad takes and a lot of bit. I mean, for a lot of people, including I guess myself and Eric. I mean, look, she pretty much destroyed the Gygax name in gaming because by taking everything he had ever published out that wasn't taken over by Hasbro or WotC, by taking all the Legendary Adventure stuff off, the Castles of Gig stuff, by taking all that stuff out, he's become virtually an unknown unknown person among younger gamers. As a matter of fact, probably the thing that's given him more publicity the last years than anything was John Peterson's book, The Game Wizards, because at least that that does talk about Gary and it goes over the history of Gary and the company. And by the way, I got my copy of Game Wizards and I need to dig through that.
Yeah, I got it on Kindle. I got to finish reading.
I started reading The Elusive Shift, which is John's book before that, on vacation, and I need to finish that, then to hit that. And I'm going to talk to John, see if we can get John on the show. Maybe the end of this year, or early next year, we'll see. Because I'd love to talk to him about the book. It was really fun talking to him at Gamehole about the book and stuff. But I'd love to be able to read them both and then get him on so we can ask some actual intelligent questions and not just fiddle fart around like we usually do. We're just like wandering around, So do you like dice, man?
Maybe. Like so Mike, since I have a troll in the room, I'd like to acknowledge my troll.
Oh, really? Which one?
Well, no, the one from TSR, the inexorable word nerd, Gygax.
Oh, was that a troll? Oh,
that's a troll.
Yeah.
But we're supposed to take down the warning label. It's an affront on creative freedom
and
historical culture. We need to preserve the legacy. All your stupid insight comes after, Eric. see, listen. I gave you what you wanted. I gave you your attention.
Why do we have such terrible trolls? We should have better quality trolls.
TSR has no ability to get that taken down, and you have no ability to get taken down. Now, I don't like it either, but guess what?
We don't know, dude. Eric, it's unnecessary. It's absolutely it's absolutely unnecessary. But guess what? They own it. They can do what. And here's the thing people don't understand. Nothing they do changes anything that was published that we had fun with when we were kids. I can go home and I can still play B1 and X1 and A1 and S1 is however I want. Yeah. I don't have to read that stupid warning label out loud to my players, and I wouldn't, So people being outraged by this, I don't understand, because whatever you do at home, whatever WotC says or husband says should have no effect on the game you run at your own table. I mean, seriously. And so I just don't get all the outrage over that when you can do whatever you like in your own house. Listen, the TSR or the WotC police are not going to kick in your door and say, we have a report that you did not read the warning label before you ran this session of B1 in Search of the Unknown, sir. And how do you plead?
You pulled the tags off those pillows too, didn't you? Fuck you. Holy shit.
Do you plead guilty or not guilty? I don't know. I didn't know it was there. So yeah, that's just, I don't, it's just a really artificial thing to be outraged about. I understand that a lot of this has to do with politics and people just being outraged in general by what they call woke society and all that. I understand it's just a bunch of it's a lot of general outrage that gets focused specifically on certain subjects. But my God, man, it doesn't affect you. If that affects you running the module, then you've got problems. I mean, that should have no effect on you running the module. Here's the thing.
It's being monetized right now. That's the only thing it's doing. It's being monetized by Lanasa and new TSR. That's all. If you think it has any value to Lanasa besides getting people to give money to his cause, that's about trademarks, by the way. Has nothing to do with slander or libel or Wizards of the Coast's horrible statement about some of their older products. It's all about getting people to give money so Lanasa can keep the trademarks that he sniped. That's all. I mean, I hate that. That's my. If you don't like my insights, I'll politely go fuck yourself. But it's true. Okay. Or as my wife would probably say, because she said this referring to somebody else, you probably spend a lot of time on Justin's knob. I can't help that.
Okay.
I gotta say, if you don't like my insights, kindly go fuck yourself. Is purely this should be considered the legal subtext for the First Amendment.
Yeah,
if you don't like my free speech, you're welcome to go elsewhere.
And see, so brought backlash on old creators labeling as misogynist, racist.
They
By
weren't all
who?
over that.
Nobody cares. I go to Gamehole Con. I run a con, North Texas Con, but we just released our first group of special guests. I mean, I didn't sit there and go, "Oh no, Zeb Cook. I don't know if I should invite him or not because I don't know. He did Oriental Adventures. That's so racist now. I didn't know. No, nobody does that. Nobody cares what a few people say. You guys get so bent out of shape of what somebody that you don't care about's opinion is. I don't care about those people's opinions.
Yeah.
Oh,
but here's the thing.
Don't get it.
As much as I dislike Woods of the Coast statement, we're just recognize that some of the legacy content available on this website does not reflect the values of Dungeons and Dragons franchise today. Some older content may reflect, and then it goes on. Not saying all. It's not saying most. It's saying some. So if you're saying that, by saying this, they're insulting every, well, then you need to apparently go back to the dictionary and figure out what some means. I can't help you with that.
It's just like I said, it's not important because like I said, when I'm choosing special guests for North Texas, I didn't sit there and look at this guy and say, oh man, Alan Hammock. Oh, I really better look at what he's done before because I just don't know.
I'm drunk with Alan Hammock. I might have issues with that. but
like I said, I didn't look at Zeb and say, oh no, Zeb did Oriental Adventure stuff, and that's verboten now. I don't know. Look, everybody knows it. Everybody knows it was a different time and there was different standards. And the famous one I use is we never thought twice about using the word gypsy when I grew up. Right? It's just TV shows used it, books used it, people talked about it, and then when we got to a certain age, then people said, hey, you know what, that's actually kind of a derogatory term. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, well, it is? Okay, well, you need to use the term Roma or whatever, and okay, no problem. We didn't know growing up. You shouldn't be held to the standard of somebody in 1979 that used the word gypsy, and people who get bent out of shape about that or don't understand history, because history is full of terms being used in one generation. The next generation says, no, that's not a good idea. So don't listen to those people. That's all I can say. If don't listen to those people. They don't know what they're talking about. And by living your life, by listening to those people, you're doing yourself a disservice by sitting there going, you know what, because these people hate D&D, I'm going to be all upset. Who cares? Who cares if they hate D&D? Matter of fact, I'm glad they hate D&D. Stay out of our D&D. I don't want you people in D&D. I don't want any more Matt Mercer friends in D&D. I don't want any more Matt Mercer's Critical Role people at D&D. Go ahead and leave us. Go do some other stuff. No, I'm just kidding. I don't mind. I don't mind Critical Role, but I don't.
The tent is big enough for everybody.
Yes, it is. It is.
Get along.
Matt Mercer can do whatever he wants. It doesn't affect my game. WotC does whatever I haven't bought a WotC product in God knows how many years. I don't care. They don't affect my game. Hasbro doesn't affect my game,
Right. I mean, sadly, the reality is they can do what they want in the IP that they own. Now, could somebody who is theoretically affected by this sue?
Shadzar brought up I forgot that part. I always forget that. Thank you, Shadzar, for making me forget.
So Justin's with these are all people that he's promised to hire, right?
Shadzar brought up with the Gen Con official podcast didn't know that Ernie and Luke were brothers.
Oh, that's right. Actually, yeah.
Oh
my God, that was pathetic.
That was bad. That was really bad. When people talk about so-called journalists and how come you can't trust journalists, I was like, look, if you can't do a 5-minute Google search of your subject, then you probably shouldn't be calling yourself journalist or anything like it. But yes, that actually did happen. The official contacts for Gen Con didn't know if Luke and Ernie were brothers. So,
but come on, they don't need to know that. They just need to know that the family is bad.
God, I forgot about that.
That was their whole take
I'm
on
crying. I laughed so. I was just
yeah.
That was
listen, we got to thank Shadstar, because Shadstar is the one that pointed me in the direction of that pod.
Well, behind the scenes, this has not been confirmed in any way, shape, or form, but we heard that Luke may or may not have made a call after that broadcast to Peter Atkinson and said, "What the hell? What the hell do you have going on here?"
Are we? If you guys don't mind, it's after 10 here.
Oh
and,
yeah.
I have family duties and French bread pizza.
We're absolutely wrapping this up because we did our 2 hours. We did our due diligence 2 hours.
Yeah, we stirred what had to get stirred, and look at that. I made a new friend.
Yes, made friends.
I feel so privileged. Well, Ken.
Thank you for having me on.
No, thanks for coming on. We should have had you on way before now.
Anytime you want to have me on, just drop me a line and I'll take a look at my schedule. And
usually we like
items. We like to promote items 5e, the Kickstarter.
We like to promote Kickstarters or Indiegogo. So next time you run a Kickstarter Indiegogo, let us know. We'll throw it up there.
We're getting an Indiegogo ready for Why Not Games that should hopefully maybe first of the year. Okay. We're getting into the end of the year and we don't want to run one during the Christmas season.
Daytime on it.
As a small publisher, every dollar counts.
What's the odds? Ping me when you release.
Yes.
Mention on the blog.
Yeah, and I'll send along PDFs of the book when it's time.
All right.
Nice. That would be wonderful.
Yeah. It's an archaeological inspired book, Prehistorica. Prehistoric versions of your common D&D races.
I'm interested. Anything weird? I like the weird. And speaking of pinging us, yes. We may have a certain Alice Ping. Maybe a guest next week. We're hoping
really
to the return of Alice Ping. Yeah, I've been talking to her, and she says she's doing okay and would like to come on the show. So Eric and I, we love our Alice. So we are gonna try to get her on next week. We'll see. I got her. She's supposed to reply to me next couple of days. So we'll see if we can get her on next week. So,
awesome.
Thanks again, Ken. It's great to have you on.
Great to talk to all of you.
Great to work with you. Ken's a great guy to work with too. He actually gets things done. Unlike Zach.
Zach.
Not even going to touch that one. Folks, as always, as we do the sign out.
Zach has gotten excellent at delegating.
Oh, he that's why he had a pet for the longest time. Folks, we are still in the midst of the world of the pandemic. None of us are telling you what to do. Use your common sense to keep yourself, your family, your friends, your loved ones healthy and safe. All right? Ignore the talking heads. That includes me, aside from saying use your common sense. Be safe, be well, God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. And I'll be back again tomorrow and a live stream on Friday. All right.
Later folks.